7 now, Chair. Would you like to start?
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. First of all, can I welcome everybody to this virtual meeting of the Baldock and District Area Committee, which is being conducted via audio, video and online. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee, sorry, can I put my other glasses on? I'm struggling here. Before the meeting starts, that's even worse, hang on. Well, I got there in the end. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer, Matthew Hepburn, to explain how the proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are all in attendance. Matthew, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Please note that the meeting is being streamed live onto YouTube and recorded via Zoom. When your name is called, please could you indicate your attendance to confirm the required members and officers are present and can hear and be heard. So, Councillor Weeks.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor McNally.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Muir.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Shanley.
Present, Matthew, yeah.
Thank you. And Councillor Tyson.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. In terms of officers, Ashley Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you. And members of the public, we just have David Green with us this evening. Could you
Yes,
confirm?
present, yeah.
Thank you. And Sergeant Stephen Oliphant. Currently muted, Sergeant.
Present, thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, that's fine. Extracts from the remote/partly remote meetings protocol are included with the agenda, and the full version is available on the Council's website, which includes information regarding live streaming, noise interference, rules of debate, voting and Part 2 items. And members are requested to ensure they are familiar with the protocol. Are there any questions before we start? No, thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Item 2 is apologies for absence. I think we're all present, so no absence is required. Item 3 is about minutes from January last year to December last year. Since the beginning of March 2020, when we started to hold these meetings remotely, we have been unable to approve minutes of meetings. We are now able to approve these minutes with the electronic signature of myself being applied following approval. There are 4 sets of minutes to agree. They are 27 January 2020, 22nd June 2020, 5 October 2020 and 7 December 2020. As chairman, I would like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record of the minutes of the meetings of the Baldock and District Committee held on those dates. Looking for a seconder, please.
I'll second, happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments? Matthew, I think we have to formally vote, do we not?
Yes, please, Chair. So if members could raise their blue hand if they're for these minutes. Okay, Chair, that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So I, as chairman, authorise the committee member and scrutiny officer to apply my electronic signature and initials to approve the minutes. Thank you. Item 4, notification of other business. I do not believe there is any. So without further ado, chairman's announcements. I have no announcements, save that in accordance with the council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available on ModGov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The longer reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the chair's announcements on the agenda. Item 6 is Hertfordshire Constabulary, and we have with us this evening, and welcome, Sergeant Stephen Oliphant to present. So Stephen, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, can I just confirm you can still hear me, please?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes.
But we can't see you.
Unfortunately, I do apologise. Hertfordshire Constabulary will not allow us to use Zoom on our work equipment, so mobile phones, laptops, desktops. We can't use Zoom. So unfortunately, I have to dial into the meeting, so you're unable to see me this evening, which for some of you might be a blessing in disguise.
I think internally you use a different system, do you not, Stephen?
We do indeed. We're still asking our IT if we can have access to Zoom. So fingers crossed for the next time we may be able to use video on Zoom as well.
Okay.
But thank you very much. So thank you for the invite this evening. And I'm very conscious that this evening's meeting is for Baldock and District, which includes Western Sandon and Arbury wards as well, which from a policing perspective, I don't cover and have day-to-day responsibility for Western Sandon and Arbury. However, for this meeting, I have done my research and I bring some of our crime statistics to the meeting as well for those councillors. My team just covers Letchworth and Baldock, but in relation to Baldock at this moment in time, I have Constable Katie Gollidge and Police Community Support Officer Sarah Masala. And the Royston Rural team cover Arbury, Western and Sandon. And that rural team is made up of Constable Mark Elwood and 2 PCSOs, namely Chris Braybrook and Penny Tomsit. So over the course of the last year, our priorities our local priorities have focused on ASB, particularly linked to drugs use, and that includes supplying and personal use, and also antisocial behaviour use of motor vehicles, namely speeding and sort of loud exhaust noises and things like that. We have just done our local priorities, and you'll be pleased to hear that on this occasion we are going to pay more attention and more focus to Baldock around sort of ASB and speeding motor vehicles, nuisance use of motor vehicles as well. And I know that John Vine, Sergeant up at Royston, in terms of the rural team, will continue to focus around speeding as one of their current local priorities. And I know they look at other rural crime as well. So Western Sandon and Arbury certainly aren't forgotten from my perspective, and I do keep sort of in touch with John as to what's going on there. We continue to work with our partner agency, so our housing providers, our district council staff, so our antisocial behaviour officer, community safety manager, and tackling local issues, and working with other local service providers as well to provide support and guidance for people that are in need, whether they be people in crisis, whether they need people that may need support due to other vulnerabilities. Over the course of the last year as well, in the current pandemic, we have been providing additional patrols around COVID breaches, which does take up quite a lot of time dealing with that aspect of things. But through the government financing, we've been able to provide additional staff on top of our local neighbourhood officers to do that work for us, and we support that where we can as well. For those of you that are interested in crime statistics, I'll come to them now. So the overall crime figures for Baldock Town, Baldock East, Arbury, Western and Sandon have reduced over the last 12 months. And I think we're not naive to know that many of those reductions will be due to the pandemic, and particularly the first part of this performance year where people have been working from home, and some people obviously still remain on furlough and therefore are still around, and therefore that has reduced some of our offending, which is positive. So overall, crime figures for Baldock, Town and East have been reduced from 484 crimes last year down to 452 this year. Arbury Ward, your crime figures this year are 116 compared to last year of 143. And Weston and Sandon, you currently sit at 76 reported crimes compared to 83 last year. In terms of criminal damage, again, that's seen a reduction across Baldock. We're looking at a reduction of around about 45% across the two wards. Arbury, a very slight reduction. We've only had 10 reports of crime this year. And Weston and Sandon, we've had 8 reports of criminal damage. In relation to burglary, overall burglary, which includes residential and commercial, Baldock overall has seen a reduction, and we've got 24 reported crimes this year. Last year we had 40. Arbury, you are currently sitting at 14 reported crimes, down from 18 last year. And Weston and Sandon have reported 7 crimes this year, and that is down from 24 last year. In relation to just residential burglaries, so dwelling burglaries as we refer to them, Baldock this year have had 9 reported crimes, whereas last year there were 30. Arbury Ward, this year you've had 8 reported dwelling burglaries compared to 14 last year. And Weston and Sandon, you've had 6 reported this year compared to 17 last year. In relation to drug-related matters, Baldock this year have had 15 crimes recorded as opposed to 16 last year. Arbury have none recorded this year, and Weston and Sandon, you've had 6 recorded this year as opposed to 3 last year, so a very slight increase. And in relation to theft-related matters, Baldock this year, you've had 65 reported, and last year you had 69, so we're on a par. Arbury, this year you've had 16 offences reported compared to 38 last year. Weston and Sandon, you've had 11 reported this year, and it was 11 last year. In relation to vehicle crime, Baldock Town Ward have had 39 offences reported this year compared to 40 last year. Baldock East, you've had 4 this year compared to 8 last year. Arbury Ward, you've had 20 reported this year compared to 22 last year. And Weston and Sandon, you've had 14 reported this year compared to 8 last year. And in relation to antisocial behaviour reports, I'm unfortunately unable to break it down into ward areas, but the district has reported a significant reduction in nuisance and personal reports of antisocial behaviour. Environmental crime sits higher than last year. I'm not entirely sure why that is. It may well be that during the initial stages of lockdown, our recycling centres were closed and people may have taken opportunities to deposit their rubbish at the roadside and sort of in culverts and ditches like that. But those figures are pretty fair across the district and probably reflective of what I see and from people reporting across Baldock and the rural parts of our committee this evening. That is my report for this evening, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. I don't want to take the words from my colleagues, but just quickly, what was the drugs figures for Baldock Town?
Baldock Town, 13 offences recorded this year, and last year we had 16 reported.
Okay, thank you. That's grand. So, members, any questions of Simon at all, please?
Councillor Muir, Chair.
Michael.
Thank you. Interesting, those figures. You say this year, are you meaning 2021, or this year is 20 and last year would be 19? Can you just clarify that for us, please?
I certainly can, Councillor Muir. Sorry, I should have explained. So that's the performance year. So this year would be the 1st of April 2020 to today's date, and the previous year would be the 1st of April 2019 to the 31st of March 2020.
Yes, thank you. Can I carry on, Chairman?
Yes, indeed, Michael.
Thank you. The biggest problem that us Baldock councillors hear about by telephone calls, emails, people stopping us in the street is speeding. I had a phone call a couple of days ago from someone living in South Road, opposite the Hen and Chickens, where the road narrows. People, he says, most of the day speed down South Road, and as soon as they get to Hen and Chickens, huge brakes because the road narrows there. When I ask him what speeds are people doing, and he says well over 30. He also said there's speeding down the high street when there's no traffic queues. Now, many years ago, I asked whether with a mobile speed camera could be used along the Royston Road when a motorcyclist was killed through speeding, and the answer was no, for various reasons, but the answer was no. So we would like to see all us councillors operation of speed guns in the High Street, South Road, Royston Road, and even North Road. Coming out under the railway bridge, they put their foot down and they're doing 40, 50 in a 30-mile-an-hour limit. So what can you do to curb speeding? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Thank you, Chair. So, as I explained at the very start, we've just relaunched and redone and reset our local priorities, and we are focusing more on Baldock this time than we did last time, and specifically around speed enforcement and speed education. You'll see on that local priority that we are specifically mentioning and targeting the High Street in Baldock, because I know that came up from your local residents around the priority setting forum. I will also look at the other roads that Councillor Muir has just mentioned to see what we can do there. I would like to, so obviously we can't be everywhere for everybody. I do have a small team here, supported by, obviously we have a roads policing department. We have our response and intervention teams as well that cover North Herts, and I can look to see what support they can give us. This last week, I've just had a conversation with my inspector and our special inspector to see what additional support the special constabulary can give us. So I will look at that to see whether supporting them and giving them some more training and using the equipment that we have will enable them to come out and concentrate on some of the things and areas that you've just asked us to. Also, you may be aware that the Police and Crime Commissioner has just launched some additional support around the Community Drive Safe project. And if you go onto our social media accounts in Hertfordshire Constabulary, you'll see that North Herts has just taken delivery of a van to support speed education and speed enforcement in North Herts. So there is some positive news there. It's not something that I'm going to be able to solve and resolve overnight for you, but hopefully you'll see that progress is being made around this particular area. And I know many people are concerned about it. So it's definitely a priority that we focus on.
Thank you for that.
There you
Okay,
have,
anyone else?
Yes, Councillor McNally.
Jim?
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Steve. Just got a couple of questions, just something around speeding, perhaps to help in the information gathering phase. There is a speed indicator device at the moment that's been working in Baldock High Street for some time, and perhaps it might be worthwhile gathering data from that to ascertain the scale of the problem with regard to speeding in the High Street. I know Michael Muir was involved in that going into the High Street, so it might be a good idea to liaise with him with regard to obtaining the data from that particular SID. Secondly, with regard to the drugs issue and drugs offences within Europe, within Baldock, I would like to get some idea of the scale of the drugs issue in Baldock, and do you have the data on how many of the offences that you gave us relate to possession with intent to supply or simple possession? Could I ask for an answer on that? Then that will depend on what I have to say about the drugs issue.
Sorry, interrupting you, Jim, but I have a question as well on drugs. So I don't know if you want to hear my question as well, Simon, and take drugs subject altogether. Or do you want to answer Jim first?
I can take both together if you'd like. That's not an issue.
Okay. Do you mind, Chair, if I ask my question on drugs as well?
I don't mind, Chair, but I'd just like the information relating to whether the problem is whether the offences are relating to drugs supply or simple possession, because that will depend where my next question goes.
Okay. Do you want to try and answer that one on its own then, Simon, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McNally, thank you. Just had to load up my screen. So in terms of supply trafficking, there were, looking at this, there was no offences recorded in relation to supply in Baldock. So obviously the figures I gave you will be for direct possession. Obviously we record crimes that are found by police. So I will accept that obviously there may well be more concerns or a perception that the drug issue is greater than just the recorded crime, because obviously we can only record what we find and what we as the police service see. But yes, there's no recorded trafficking or drug supply offences in Baldock.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Steve. Chair, supplementary question?
Jim?
Thank you. Bearing in mind that, Steve, the offences recorded are of simple possession as opposed to possession with intent to supply, perhaps I could ask that resources within the police service are directed towards the information that is provided in relative to the supply of drugs. I know that information has come to you. I've provided it on some occasions. I'm not going to obviously go into the details, but and I don't want to get into the operational matters for obvious reasons. But I do believe that if we simply react to the drugs problem, then it's never going to have a positive impact on drugs within Baldock. But there is a drugs issue within Baldock, as there is in many places. But I really do think that that the police should be more proactive in looking at issues relating to the drug supply. I do understand how resource intensive it is, so I'm not expecting miracles, but I would like those people involved in the supply of drugs in Baldock to feel that they are in a spotlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments, Simon?
Thank you, Chair. And just to confirm that, if Councillor McNally and yourselves wish to look on hopefully it'll come out tomorrow, but it's certainly on the police.uk website. If you look under Baldock as the new local priorities that have been set, I think within that, Councillor McNally will be able to read and see that I have in part answered his question in terms of how we will direct our resources in relation to that last view.
Okay, at this point, can I just give you my experiences, please, Steve? And drugs in Baldock, on the streets of Baldock, are the worst that I have ever seen. Whether this is due to lockdown or not, in that supply is taking place on the streets rather than in the likes of pubs and clubs, I don't know. But Stephen, what one sees when you take a dog for a walk in Baldock will make you shiver. In the vicinity of Avenue Park, the motorway bridge and the service road they're at.
Chair,
yes.
And I would sort of ask that if we're going to go into specific places, we are live streaming, and I would suggest that's an operational matter.
Okay, all right, I'll stop there. But what I will say then, I do see punters in Baldock picking up their packages from cars. I see wads of money in cars. I see mules on bikes picking up packages from cars and immediately getting on the phone and contacting their customers. I see children only this week, young girls walking back from Knights Templars with joints in their hands and that kind of thing. I don't know where it's going, Steve. I don't think what the answer is. I don't know. The police have got their tasks full at the moment. They've got so much to do, and maybe drugs isn't particularly on their radar as such. But I hear what you say to Jim about your plans for the future, and I keep my fingers crossed. But I also, like Jim, have reported, I've given vehicle registration numbers in the past, I've given locations to the police in the past, I get no acknowledgement. I've kind of given up now because, are you listening to us? I don't know. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. We have, as a team here, since I came back into this post just over a year ago, and our local priorities have been set as soon as I came back, and one of them has consistently been around targeting and dealing with antisocial behaviour linked to drug-related crime. And by drug-related crime, I mean what we've been discussing this evening, which is intent to supply offences, includes personal use, people that are smoking cannabis in a public place on the open street in front of people, and dealing with that. And as I said and can confirm, we have just reset that as a new local priority, and specifically this time, more of our focus and attention is being paid to Baldock. So I'm hoping that does give yourselves, as the committee, and members of the public and residents of Baldock some reassurance that we are listening to your concerns and we are doing our best to take action when and where we can. Yes, policing is relatively complex these days compared to where it used to be. We are still dealing with and working through the complexities of coronavirus, the pandemic, lockdown, or being in tier 4, however you want to look at it, regulations that are in place that we are called upon to deal with, and we have a stepped process in Hertfordshire as we do nationally from a policing perspective. With we refer to it as the 4 E's, about speaking to people, explaining, encouraging to them, and then we'll take enforcement action at the end if we need to, which is around issuing fixed penalty tickets. So yeah, we are dealing with a number of issues at the moment, crossing over various different strands of policing and trying as best as we can to also support our local communities of where we police. It's not easy, and hopefully, as you recognise, we do have a finite number of resources, but I can assure you, as the local sergeant for Letchworth and Baldock, and as I say, John Vine also from Royston, who has geographic responsibility for Arbury, Weston and Sandon, that we are doing our utmost and our best every day that we come to work to support our communities. And that's sort of where we are at the moment.
Okay. Steve, are you still happy to receive intelligence from the likes of us?
Absolutely. And sorry, I should have confirmed that. I know I certainly have replied to a couple of emails that I've received from councillors. I shan't name them. And I'm hoping that you do receive my emails as well. And we certainly use the OWL system to pass out general information to people. But absolutely, if I or my team receive an email and it has intelligence or information on it, we will look at that. It will get submitted into our various systems to be reviewed and looked at by our headquarters teams as well. So it does definitely get looked at. And if there are any emails that you've sent that I've not replied to, I do apologise. It's certainly not my intention for you to feel that I'm ignoring you.
Okay. Are you happy that we pass the information to you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I mean, all we want is an acknowledgement, and I think we'd be happy with that. But as long as we know we can come to you with whatever we've got, a location, a registration number, a description or anything like that, you're happy to receive it?
Absolutely, yes, I am.
Anyone else, please?
Yes, you have Councillor Jarvis, Chair.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah. Steve, you mentioned environmental crime, and I guess that's something that's explained quite a lot. And presumably, most of that is done by the council's environmental crime officers, but I assume that you do get involved in that occasionally. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
I mean, it seems to me we've got to a position where there are probably people dumping material as a business. You know, one doesn't land up with a lorry load of tyres in one's shed as by accident. You know, someone's clearly collecting them from a tyre fitting business and dumping them at the side of the road. And there's been quite a widespread number of cases where there's been what might be described as industrial scale dumping. So do you get involved when things get to that scale? Because there's clearly some, it's not just people leaving a bit of their junk at the side of the road, is it? It's significant criminal activity.
Yes, we do get involved, Councillor Jarvis. I think there's sort of two elements really to this, which is a member of the public that sees a fly tip, if you like, at the side of the road will often report it into the police. The local authority actually are the designated lead agency for dealing with environmental crime and particularly fly tipping. However, we work with our local enforcement officers to provide support to them around investigations, to support them around identifying suspects or offenders that can be dealt with, and where those offenders are problematic to get hold of, to identify or to interview, we will also support them and provide resourcing to help deal with those offenders so they can be prosecuted, whether that be taking them to court or whether that be issuing them with fixed penalty tickets. But that is definitely an area where we work strongly in partnership with our enforcement officers from North Herts District Council to make sure it's dealt with properly. And absolutely recognition from when I used to work over in Hitchin and cover the rural area over there, that sort of our rural communities and sort of agricultural areas and farmlands are particularly targeted because they're out. People that are offending see that as being out in the middle of nowhere and feel that they can get away with doing what they do.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm pleased to hear that you're working with the council's enforcement staff, because I can see that some of the cases must tax their resources. I don't mean necessarily numbers, because I know you don't have a lot of resources either, but you have powers and skills at your disposal that they probably don't. So I'm pleased to hear that you work with them.
And you have Councillor Tyson, Chair.
Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Stephen, I was actually going to ask the same question about the fly tipping issue. There does seem to have been an upsurge in offending, presumably related to, at some point, lockdowns and the public's perception, at least, that the recycling centres haven't been open. But as Steve also points out, that there does definitely seem to be some sort of commercial activity involving illegal dumping of rubbish going on. And certainly in my area, which is Arbury Ward, it's a very sort of persistent problem, both dumps that seem to be from commercial offenders, if you like, as well as sort of more domestic waste as well that gets left around, odd items of furniture in fields and such like. But anyway, I think you've dealt with that very fully, and I wanted to say also thank you for the breakdown in the crime figures. That was very interesting as well. If perhaps a somewhat higher numbers than I was expecting in our briefing, some of those things. Just one other question though. This is something that comes up on social media a lot, and I'm not sure the extent of this as a problem, but there's a lot of people posting about theft of dogs in rural areas, so that when they're out with their dogs, that there's attempts being made to steal them. Is this a real issue, or is it something that's been drummed up a little bit in social media and exaggerated?
Thank you, Councillor. In relation to incidents around dog theft, we've not seen, to my knowledge, any reports in North Hertfordshire over the last 6 months. I do vaguely remember at the back of my mind an incident probably about 12 months ago, just as I came back to North Herts, but I can certainly confirm that it is not an issue or an area of concern for us policing North Hertfordshire. But I am very aware. I follow a number of different people on social media, and certainly nationally there is a very strong view that the theft of dogs is a real issue. But I can confirm it's not something that has come into North Hertfordshire at this time.
Thank you. Can I ask one more, please, Chairman?
Yes, Tom.
Stephen, you gave us a very detailed breakdown of the numbers of reported or recorded crimes in our area. What you haven't mentioned is the sort of the clear-up rates for those crimes. So, without going into figures in detail, what's your view and your opinion on the success that you're having with clearing up these recorded crimes?
Thank you. Clear-up rates mean different things to different people. If your question is what is our detection rate or our outcome rate, i.e. the number of people that have a sanction against them, whether that might be a fine at court or an outcome at court, so people have gone to court or have received a police caution, then I can actually give you those percentages now. So the outcome rate for this performance year, so from the 1st of April 2020 to today, currently for Baldock stands at 12%, Arbury stands at 6.7%, and Western Sandon stands at 14.5%. What I would like to state sort of alongside that is that in terms of how we resolve crime, and we call it outcomes, is that they are dictated, if you like, to us by the Home Office. And at this moment in time, we have 22 possible outcomes for crime investigations. So whilst that percentage rate may seem relatively low in comparison to previous years, we have a number of crimes that are reported to us where the victim doesn't wish to support a police investigation. So they'll report the crime to us, but they'll say, for a number of different reasons, it may be that they actually know who the person is, but they don't want to get them into trouble because they may be an ex-friend, they might be a work colleague or something like that, and they don't want the bother of going to court. Alternatively, it might be as simple as we would never be able to identify who the suspect is. And there are a number of other issues. People may not realise that they have committed a crime when we get to it. So there are different ways that we can record our outcomes. And I say they are very stringently applied, and authorised by our headquarters team, if you like. And those outcome differences are given to us by the Home Office. So there's a wider array of information, just then giving you that percentage rate. But obviously that is the formal detection rate, if you like. Hopefully that explains or answers your question.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, it does. It answers the part of the question. The other part was my implied question of whether you're satisfied with that, or you think that maybe with, I don't know, better resourcing, you could improve that response.
That's probably a personal question I wouldn't wish to answer in this meeting, but I think overall, yes, I'm comfortable with how my team is performing. I'm satisfied that what we are doing for our communities and our residents is correct. Could we do better? Absolutely. Could we do things differently? Probably. And that's why we continue our engagements with our communities, why we keep coming back and seeking the views of our residents, our business communities, just to see what we're doing, how we can change. Our local priorities are a case in point. That's why we keep coming back and asking yourselves as local residents and councillors, what do you want us to focus on locally as a local priority? And not everybody, I guess, is fussed by or bothered by what a detection rate is or what a clear-up rate is. Yes, it's important for us to know how we're performing and what we're doing and how we're supporting our communities. But ultimately, I suppose the question should really be asked to an individual person, which we do victim surveys and callbacks to, which is, were you satisfied with the service that the police gave you if you've had contact with the police? And that could just be reporting antisocial behaviour or a crime. So I guess I'm probably not the best person to ask that question to.
Okay, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stephen, are we to get a replacement for Sean at all?
I'm hopeful. I did actually reply to Councillor McNally earlier on.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so there is hopefully a person in the pipeline.
Yes, there is.
I can talk that through with you offline if you wish, Adam.
Okay. Any more questions of Stephen?
No, Chair.
Stephen, thank you very much for your time this evening. I know you're very busy. It's much appreciated. And can I apologise for calling you Simon earlier?
That's not an issue at all, Councillor and Chair. Thank you very much for the invite. And it's been a pleasure coming to this meeting, albeit virtually.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Right. So item 7 now is public participation. And we have David Green from Sandon Sports and Social Club. David, are you there? Yes, you are.
Yes, I am. Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Would you like me just to go through give you an outline of why we're applying for the grant?
Okay, you're applying for a grant, and you're just going to give us some background as to what it's all about, what it's for, how much, etc., etc.
Yeah. I'm the volunteer groundsman at Sandon at Row Green, and responsible for the cricket and the football pitches and the preparation of them. We have a shed there which has proved not to be as strong as we'd hoped. We've had several minor thefts, and I've always been worried that we would get a major break-in from some of our friends that like collecting equipment. Like we have 3 good lawn mowers, a roller, a scarifier, motorised scarifier. So there's a few £1,000s of equipment in the shed. Last year, a group of individuals decided to put a chain on the garage door and drive away and take the doors with them. Luckily, they made such a noise that they disturbed the close neighbours, and nothing was taken. We secured the shed then, but we decided to look at what other cricket clubs do to secure their equipment. And the favourite thing is a secure container. I spoke to one of the local farmers who has several of them on his farm, and they're ideal. They're specially coloured, so they fit in with the environment, and they are very secure. So we've decided to go ahead and purchase one and have it delivered in the spring. But it is rather a lot of money, and so although we're going to finance most of it ourselves, that's why we were looking for a grant from yourselves.
Okay, remind me how much you're asking for.
I believe it was £500.
Any questions of David at all, please?
None showing, Chair.
David,
Councillor McNally, sorry.
Jim.
Yes, thank you, Chair. David, just one thing that I'd just like to clarify with regard to your solution to this. How robust are the sort of secure places that or cabins that you are wanting to acquire, and what's their expected lifespan?
I don't know their expected lifespan. They're very robustly made. I know from talking to the local farmer that I mean, they have huge bolts and rods on them that you would need something pretty strong to cut through. We do have an alarm on the shed. That's one of the other reasons maybe that they didn't carry on. But they are substantial, and many cricket clubs now have adopted them because of that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to add to David's comments there. Yeah, the rugby club, the Letchworth and Baldock Rugby Club, they've been using containers for quite a few years now, and they seem to be working quite well, and they're quite, as David said, they're quite robustly made. And the only thing I would say to David from a constructing point of view, to make sure if you are going to be buying one of these containers, that they do need a good concrete slab foundation. So which is something we had to do at the rugby club. But I think from a practical point of view, I think the containers are probably the solution you're after.
Yeah. Thank you. We do have a substantial concrete base to put it on already there. And one thing I didn't mention, I'm a member of the UK Groundsmen's Association. There are quite a few hundred of us, and they are popular. I've talked to them about those that use them, and they have been very popular. So
and the idea that you can paint them to sort of to suit the surroundings is also quite positive as well. So yeah.
Well, the companies I think have bought into this now because they do an olive green that really does disappear in the countryside. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Jarvis, Chair.
Sorry?
Councillor Jarvis.
Steve.
Clearly, a container is a good solution in a location like Row Green. And my understanding is that, subject to getting the grant, you have the rest of the resources, so you'd then be able to go ahead and get it installed pretty speedily, will it?
Sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you
Sorry, I
said.
was saying, subject to getting the grant, you then have sufficient money to pay for the container and its installation, so you can get on and get it installed.
Yes.
For the
Yes, we
start.
do. Sorry.
Excellent, thanks.
Yes, everything is ready in the plan. The only thing we'll be waiting for is for the ground to dry out a bit, because it is very soft this year.
Yeah, you'll make some big ruts if you don't leave.
Yeah, the cricket pitch is still underwater.
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
David, I take it the location is adjacent to the pavilion on Row Green. Is it?
It is. It
okay.
is.
And that's where the hut is at the moment.
Yes.
Is it? You don't need planning permission, do you?
I'm told we don't. No.
Is it on the same footprint as the
It's
shed?
on the same footprint.
Similar size.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Well, one more question. Sorry, Chair. You have one more question. Councillor Tyson.
Tom.
Oh, thank you. Well, less of a question, really, just to say, really, that it sounds like an ideal solution, and I wish you well with it. It does seem a bit expensive, though. 2,500 is what it says here for your total project
That's
cost.
the total cost for delivery, and
Yeah.
they have to crane it in, you know, and the container itself. They are very well made. It's not a second-hand thing or anything like that. They are purpose-built and painted, so they fit in, you know.
Yeah. So I'm imagining something like a shipping container with a door in it.
Yeah, it looks very similar to a shipping container. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, David. Ashley, are you there?
I'm here, Chair.
Are we considering this grant this evening in the next item?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. David, thank you very much for your presentation. And I don't know if you're going to hang on in there whilst we discuss the grant, but we will get to it very shortly. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you mind if I stay in? Sorry.
Sorry, David?
Do you mind if I stay in, or would you like me to leave?
No, not at all. Not at all. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Item 8 is grants and community update. So, Ashley, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. 7.3, you can see that the committee currently has a remaining budget of £5,527, which is literally the whole of, you've got the whole budget for the year still intact. 8.12, we have a number of grants in the pipeline which weren't ready for this meeting, but you can see in 8.12 we've got Baldock Run and Talk Run. We're looking for £750. Greening Ashwell looking for £250. Magic Moments in Baldock potentially £1,000, and Baldock v Coronavirus, or the Baldock Futures Fund, will be bringing an application to the meeting in June, July. So we have got £5,500 in the pipeline. We've got grants up to about 4K coming to the next meeting. But in terms of the application is criteria compliant. They have got the match funding in place. There's a need for it, an urgent need for it, because hopefully we'll get some support back in the next couple of months. And it's well used for football and for cricket. So my recommendation is the award of the £500 that is requested.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
And I'm quite happy to support that and to allocate £500 from my Western and Sandon Ward budget.
Okay. I think we probably need to vote on that, do we? Can we agree that an award of £500 come from Steve Jarvis's funds to the container at Row Green in Sandon? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
I think we take
Yes.
that.
You want me to hit the blue? There we go.
That's great. Thank you, Chair. And all members, yeah, that's carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Matthew.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if you got that, David. Are you still there? David, Ashley will
I'm back.
be-
I'm back again. Sorry. Yeah. Thank
Ashley
you very
will be
much.
in touch- Ashley
I'll
will
let
be-
you know when it's installed.
Okay, Ashley will be in touch with you with regard to a cheque or transfer of the money to your account. Thanks,
That's
David.
fine. Thank you very much.
Is that you finished, Ashley?
No, just Chair, just a couple of points.
Sure.
On recommendation 2.2, is there a recommendation there to allocate any underspend to community and environmental initiatives? That's just for the audit trail, so that we can allocate monies in for the next financial year. So if members could agree to that recommendation, 2.2.
If members, you want to vote then on recommendation 2.2.
Okay,
That's carried, Chair.
thank you very much.
And just a couple more points, Chair, if I may. 8.21 just details some of the upcoming events for the town. There's been a few changes of dates. The big lunch, which is planned for the 6th of June, is now the 4th of July. And the cycle challenge, which is listed as the 27th of June, is now planned for the 5th of September. And the Baldock Beast Half Marathon, which was due in February, has been put back until the 31st of October. That's just a point of correction. And then finally for me, Chair, it's just 8.22 through to 8.24 is just the work I've been doing in support of the pandemic. Signposting the community groups to funding that's available through the business grants, and delivering some hand sanitizer and some signage to key venues and groups in the town and villages.
Okay. Ashley, thanks very much. And I know you've been doing a lot of COVID type work along with your normal, so well done to you. We look forward to you getting back to your proper job very shortly. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Item 9, ward members and outside organisations, members' reports. Anybody?
Councillor McNally, Chair.
Jim.
Thank you, Chair. What I would like to do is to thank Ashley for the work that he has been doing in community events and continues to do. He has been helping certainly with on an ongoing basis with the Baldock Events Forum, which has only managed to hold one event last year, the Baldock Beast, and however, the big lunch is the next event that we're looking forward to holding. A couple of things in relation to community events in Baldock. The Baldock Rat Run is planned for the 12th of September. That's the 5K event that's run by Sports Hollington Health now, and the Event Forum helps out with that. Baldock Futures Fund are looking to set up board games in the High Street in the summer, and they're looking for those to run from 11 o'clock to 1 p.m. on I think it's Saturdays in the summer, and I shall be contacting Street Food Heroes to see whether or not they can come back for a summer. I'm sure that they will want to if they possibly can, but I will be doing that within the next week so that we can get them in Baldock High Street. It's going to be a funny old year, to use a hackneyed cliche, but having said that, it does seem that with the numbers, if they continue with their present trend, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and Baldock is slowly reopening, and we will be getting some community events coming on board. So we are really looking forward to that this year.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. And we all look forward to getting back into events as soon as possible. Anyone else?
Yes, Tom, Councillor Tyson.
Tom.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a mention of the Baldock, Bygrave and Clothall neighbourhood plan, which has reached the stage of referendum, and it will be, I understand, the referendum will be part of the local election process, and it will be a yes and no question. And I think that it behoves us to some extent to engage in some awareness raising about this, because it is a very, I think it's a very worthy document. And I think that my perception is that there might be a slight danger that the public go into the polling booth and aren't really sort of clued up as to what the importance of this might be. And it's all of us here in a big way, given the potential impacts of the local plan on Baldock and the surrounding area. So I think that it might be a good idea if we could do something to raise public awareness of this neighbourhood plan and what it means.
I think that's absolutely right, Tom. It is a very important document, and we need to do as much as we can to raise awareness for ticking the box at the election day.
And,
Okay.
Chair, can I just quickly come in and endorse Councillor Tyson's remarks and say that just let's make it very clear that people will be voting for the local neighbourhood, the neighbourhood plan on the 6th of May during a local election. So it is a very important thing for them to be aware of.
Agreed. Okay, anything else?
Yes, Councillor Muir, Chair.
Michael.
Thank you. I'll just remove my hand. I just thought I'd let you know on highways things. I've still got 2 roads to be resurfaced in Baldock from my 2021 budget, which they've been advertised in the Comet, so they'll be done during April. My 21-22 budget, I've allocated £77,000 for the whole of Baldock already, and I have a bit of Letchworth East as well. That 77 is mainly resurfacing pavements, and there are a couple of roads to be resurfaced as well. So I've got a little left. So if any Baldock East or Baldock Town councillors can or see something that they think I should be doing, please let me know. I'll inspect it and get my highways officer to look at it as well, and hopefully we can agree it at the back end of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Noted. Right. Well,
just before we close, Chair, we've got Ashley Hawkins just wants to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just, yeah, it was just an update that bull stock this year will not be happening in the high street. It will be confined to the pubs only. And also I'm working with the police on a bike safety event, which will become the Baldock High Street sometime in July, yet to be confirmed. That was all, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Right, well, whatever time it is, it's 20:34. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all very much for your attendance, and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye.